Good afternoon, alien enthusiasts. I'm back, and today, I've got a story that should be dominating science desks everywhere. But somehow, it's been flying under the radar. Picture this for a moment. Over 80,000 UFO reports have been analyzed by scientists, and what they uncovered is nothing short of mind-blowing. These sightings aren't just random flashes in the sky. They follow a distinct pattern. And here's the kicker. This pattern centers specifically around some of the deepest and most unexplained areas of our oceans, particularly off the coast of California and Washington state. One of these locations alone has reported 8 to 20 UFO sightings, far more than the 55 sightings that math would predict for a similar population density. This isn't science fiction or some wild conspiracy theory. This is real, military-grade data being collected over decades, and it is time for us to pay attention. You might be thinking, what's so special about the ocean? What's happening out there? Well, hold on to your seat, because today, we're diving into a groundbreaking study released just a few weeks ago on February 28, 2026, by an independent researcher named Anthony Wekowski. If you haven't heard of him yet, you will soon, because his work is reshaping how we think about UFO sightings and, more specifically, the strange, recurring patterns that appear to be concentrated above deep sea canyons. This is the type of data we've all been waiting for, but not in the way you might expect. This isn't about sensationalism or wild guesses. This is about cold, hard geospatial statistics and military sensor data. You've probably heard about the Navy's encounters with tic-tac shaped objects that defy physics, moving at unimaginable speeds without leaving any sign, no splash, no wake, just vanishing. Well, it's not just some isolated event. This is happening again and again in very specific locations. The questions we should be asking aren't, what are they? But why here? Why now? Let's get into the specifics of this study because the data is remarkable. Wekowski didn't just look at UFO sightings in the usual places. He didn't just pull random reports and try to find patterns. No, he went much deeper than that. He took over 80,000 UFO reports from the National UFO Reporting Center, spanning several decades, and overlaid them on bathymetry maps, the detailed maps of the ocean floor created by sonar. This is the same sonar used by marine explorers to find shipwrecks or hidden underwater resources. And what did Wekowski find? A shocking and undeniable pattern. The UFO sightings weren't scattered randomly across the ocean. Instead, they were concentrated directly above some of the steepest underwater canyons along the west coast. Lala Canyon, for example, saw 820 reports, while the population-adjusted baseline would predict only 55 sightings. This is no statistical glitch. It's a major red flag. These aren't random incidents. They're occurring in places with specific geographic features. The findings go beyond mere coincidence. So why are these sightings happening in these particular spots? If you're imagining a UFO base hidden in these canyons, you're not alone. Steep underwater cliffs create acoustic shadows, which means they can obscure sonar detection. This is important because it suggests that anything trying to hide in these regions would have an ideal cover. And the timing of the sightings is equally revealing. These UFOs aren't just showing up sporadically. They appear in bursts, exactly what you'd expect. if something is coming and going from a fixed, hidden location. But let's get one thing straight. This isn't just a conspiracy theory from UFO enthusiasts. Wekowski is a lawyer, not a YouTuber or some fringe researcher. He approached this study like a serious scientific investigation. He didn't just pull random data from the sky. He used hard, verifiable science to analyze patterns that have been previously ignored. His conclusions are based on data that anyone can examine, and he's released the entire dataset and code for anyone to replicate his results. These patterns are too significant to ignore. They call for serious investigation, and Wekowski's study challenges us to consider the possibility that something is happening beneath the ocean's surface that's been going on for decades, possibly even longer. But what could it be? And more importantly, why have we been so blind to it? What's hiding under the waters of California, and why are UFOs clustering specifically in these regions? The West Coast isn't just home to civilians reporting strange objects in the sky. It's also where the military has repeatedly witnessed UFOs doing things that we simply can't explain. And Wekowski's study is asking the crucial questions. Are these just random occurrences, or is there something more profound taking place? And if so, what is it, and why haven't we been looking closer? This study is forcing us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about UFO sightings, military encounters, and the unexplained phenomena happening right beneath our noses. So, are we dealing with advanced military technology, extraterrestrial activity, or something even stranger? Stick with me as we explore the implications of Wekowski's findings and how they challenge the very idea of what we understand about UFO sightings and the phenomenon at large. But before we dive even deeper into this study, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're just as intrigued by these findings as I am, don't go anywhere. This is just the beginning. As we dive deeper into Wekowski's study, the significance of his findings becomes even more profound. He didn't just look at random data or make wild assumptions. Wekowski's methodical approach involved referencing the over 80,000 UFO reports from the National UFO Reporting Center with high-resolution sonar maps of the ocean floor. These sonar maps, used for finding shipwrecks, oil deposits, and undersea geological features, allowed him to pinpoint the locations of steep underwater cliffs, also known as submarine canyons. These canyons are not just geological features. They're crucial to understanding the distribution of UFO sightings. Wekowski specifically looked for areas where the ocean floor drops at least 60 meters per kilometer, a characteristic of deep sea canyons. When he mapped the sightings against these steep drops, something extraordinary became clear. UFO sightings were clustering around these exact features, particularly on the West Coast. Locations like Lala Canyon near San Diego, Mugu Canyon, and Monterey Canyon had significant concentrations of sightings. The numbers were staggering. Lala Canyon alone recorded 820 UFO sightings, while models predicted that only about 55 sightings should have occurred, based on population density and other factors. This isn't a minor statistical anomaly. This is a clear, repeating pattern. In contrast, Wekowski didn't find the same pattern along the East Coast or in the Gulf of Mexico, despite these regions having similar underwater features. Even though there are deep sea canyons off the East Coast, UFO sightings, they weren't nearly as concentrated or as frequent. What's even more fascinating is that sightings in the West Coast canyons don't just trickle in over time. They come in bursts. These bursts of activity fit the behavior we'd expect if something is coming and going from a specific hidden location. This observation is consistent with the idea that there's something below the surface, something possibly using the canyons as a hiding place or a pathway for entry and exit. One of the most significant aspects of this study is the concept of acoustic shadows. Steep underwater cliffs create areas where sonar doesn't work as efficiently, leaving behind shadows in the sonar data. This could explain why UFOs, if they are indeed utilizing these regions, might be able to move without being detected by military or civilian radar. The ocean floor's geography creates a perfect hiding spot, and the bursts of sightings could be linked to an object or objects entering or leaving these areas. Witkowski didn't make any bold claims about extraterrestrial life, but the evidence suggests something is consistently happening in these regions of the ocean, and it's time we took notice. It raises the question, could these underwater canyons be serving as a cover for UFOs or some other phenomenon that we haven't yet fully understood? The study's findings challenge us to reconsider how we think about UFO sightings and their correlation with specific geographical locations. What makes Witkowski's study even more compelling is the historical context it uncovers. UFO sightings in the regions around California and the Pacific coast aren't just a modern phenomenon. They go back over 6 decades, even to the height of Project Blue Book in the 1960s. During this time, the U.S. Air Force was actively investigating UFO reports as part of a formal study. Interestingly, many of these historical UFO sightings were concentrated around the same underwater canyons that Witkowski's study has highlighted. One of the most notable early sightings occurred on April 15, 1966, when U.S. Navy photographer Lee Hansen, who was on assignment near Catalina Island, captured clear footage of a bright, metallic, elongated object. The object hovered motionless before accelerating smoothly across the length of the island. Hansen, a professional photographer, knew exactly what he was filming, and he was certain that it wasn't a conventional aircraft. The film was reviewed by Project Blue Book investigators, and despite efforts to identify the object, it remained unexplained. This sighting is significant not just because of the visual evidence, but because it occurred directly over the underwater canyon systems that are now known to be UFO hotspots. What's even more fascinating is that this wasn't an isolated event. During the 1960s, witnesses near Catalina Island, specifically in the Santa Catalina Channel, reported seeing luminous orbs or large craft that would suddenly dive into the ocean, lighting up the water like a baseball stadium at night. These early reports mirror the kinds of transmedium behavior that we're still seeing today. UFOs entering and exiting the water with apparent ease. The consistency of these reports, going back over half a century, shows that these geographical areas have been active UFO hotspots for decades, long before modern technology like smartphones and social media could influence public perception. This historical context adds a layer of credibility to Witkowski's findings. It suggests that this region has been a hotspot for UFO activity long before radar and sonar technology could be used to detect them. The fact that sightings from the 1960s align with current reports adds weight to the idea that there is something consistent happening here, something that's been going on for much longer than we've acknowledged. Now, let's take the conversation to the present. The military sightings of UFOs, particularly off the coast of California, provide even more evidence that something extraordinary is happening in these waters. One of the most famous encounters is the USS Nimitz incident in 2004. During this event, Commander David Fravor and his crew were tasked with chasing a tic-tac shaped object that dropped from 80,000 feet to sea level in mere seconds. The object hovered motionless above the ocean, showing no heat signature and no visible propulsion system. The crew and radar operators aboard the USS Princeton tracked numerous objects, performing similar maneuvers. These objects weren't just flying in the sky. They were interacting with the ocean in strange ways, seemingly moving between the atmosphere and the water without any visible disturbance. This incident, captured on military radar and corroborated by the experiences of several trained pilots and crew members, is one of the most well-documented UFO encounters to date. What makes it particularly intriguing is that these UFOs exhibited performance capabilities that far exceeded any known aircraft at the time. Fravor and his crew were left dumbfounded by the object's ability to outmaneuver their fighter jets. The Princeton's radar even tracked multiple objects moving at incredible speeds, some of which headed towards underwater locations like Guadalupe Island. These kinds of encounters were not just one-time events. They continued, with new sightings reported in 2019, 2023, and beyond. In 2019, the USS Omaha encountered a spherical object on radar which was seen diving into the ocean, creating a visible splash. This was not just a fleeting visual, it was tracked by radar and witnessed by multiple sailors. Other objects, like pyramid-shaped crafts, were also recorded hovering near the USS Russell. These sightings were documented in official Navy logs and videos, reinforcing the idea that UFOs are interacting with the ocean in ways we don't fully understand. In 2023, the USS Jackson had another encounter with tic-tac shaped objects that rose out of the ocean in perfect synchronization, without any visible propulsion. The objects were tracked by radar, recorded by infrared cameras, and witnessed by senior naval personnel, including Chief Operations Specialist Alexandra Wiggins. The consistency in the reports, the technological tracking, and the behavior of these UFOs across multiple incidents strengthens the argument that these sightings aren't just one-off events. They're part of an ongoing, unexplained pattern of activity off the West Coast. Now, let's get to the frustrating part of this whole phenomenon, the lack of transparency from the military. Despite all the evidence, multiple military sightings, radar data, sonar readings, and video footage, there is one glaring issue. The raw sonar data from these encounters is still locked away. We've seen the radar returns, we've heard about the sonar contacts, and we've witnessed the extraordinary maneuvers of these UFOs, but we've never been shown the full, unredacted data. Why? Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet has been one of the most vocal advocates for greater transparency, urging the military to release more data from these encounters. Despite his efforts, however, the military continues to keep much of this information under wraps. Wieckowski's study highlights this issue, ending with a call to compare the UFO sightings with sonar records from the canyons. But until that data is released, it's impossible to make the definitive connection between the sightings and the objects seen by military personnel. What could the military be hiding? The fact that we don't have access to the raw sonar data raises several questions. Are we simply not looking in the right way? With sonar technology that's capable of detecting these fast-moving objects? Or is the data being hidden from the public, classified for reasons we may never fully understand? Wieckowski's study calls for a civilian investigation. Sonar sweeps in these regions to uncover the truth. But as of now, the data remains out of reach, and the mystery continues. So, after looking at all the data and examining the evidence, what can we conclude from the UFO sightings concentrated in the deep underwater canyons of the West Coast? Are we witnessing the activities of extraterrestrial beings operating from hidden bases beneath the ocean? Could these sightings be the result of advanced human technology, possibly military drones or experimental vehicles we don't fully understand yet? Or is there something far more ordinary at play? Misidentified objects, natural phenomena, or even clever military testing? While skeptics may offer their own explanations, such as misidentified military technology, drones, or bioluminescent organisms, the overwhelming evidence, spanning decades of sightings, scientific studies, and military encounters, suggests that we're dealing with something much more mysterious. The consistent patterns of UFO sightings in the exact same regions, the incredible maneuvers witnessed by highly trained military personnel, and the lack of any conventional explanation for these phenomena force us to reconsider the nothing to see here approach. For instance, if this is advanced human technology, why are we keeping the data under wraps? Why are the sonar records, radar returns, and video footage still being withheld from the public? What is the military hiding? And why hasn't there been more transparency on these encounters? These are valid questions that need to be answered. And if this isn't human technology, the implications are even more profound. We might be looking at the biggest story in human history, one that has been unfolding right under our noses, just 10 miles off the coast of California. If there are UFOs operating in and out of the ocean, it could mean that we've been coexisting with these phenomena for decades without fully realizing it. But until we get access to the raw data, sonar logs, radar readings, and the full details of military encounters, this mystery will remain unresolved. Wieckowski's study has done an incredible job of providing data and pointing to the patterns, but it's clear that we need more to connect the dots. We need to see the sonar sweeps, the raw logs, and the unredacted military reports. Until then, we're left with more questions than answers. And that's where you come in. We as a public need to demand transparency. If the US military is serious about understanding these phenomena, it's time to lift the veil of secrecy. Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet has pushed for dedicated sonar sweeps of these canyons, but nothing has been done so far. The truth is out there, and we have the tools to find it. If Congress truly wants to know what's happening off our shores, it's time to subpoena the sonar logs, push for more scientific investigation, and bring this information into the light. So, what do you think? Should we drop civilian sonar buoys into these mysterious canyons to finally get to the bottom of these sightings? And more importantly, should Congress demand that the military release the full sonar data? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've personally seen anything strange off the California coast, don't be shy. Share your story with us. And before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to keep following this fascinating story and see where it leads, hit that notification bell so you won't miss any updates. Share this video with your friends who still think UFOs are just a joke. The numbers don't lie. The evidence is right there, and it's time we started taking it seriously. If you'd like to support this channel, consider becoming a member by hitting that join button or check out the description for other ways to contribute. Thanks again for watching, and as always, stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay angry about space. Until next time!